Hey everybody, Mike Pfeiffer again. Probably getting tired of seeing me by now, but anyway, I was on my switching video. I had a gentleman say he liked the video and everything, just like everyone else, and has said, and thank you all for that. His name is Brian Anshin. I believe that's the way you pronounce his last name. But what he wanted me to do, or what he asked me to do, was could I go through my locomotive roster and show the locomotives that I have and give kind of a quick description on who they were by and what I thought of the particular locomotives. And I thought, you know, I haven't really ever done anything like that, and maybe that's a good idea. Maybe it's not. Maybe you guys won't like what I have to say about some of them, but and maybe I'm wrong on some of the descriptions that I'm going to tell about them, because I'm not real fanatical about the particular locomotive designation. In other words, if it's a U something, or it's an F unit, or if it's an F something, or what. The F units I know about, but some of them, the more modern the locomotives get, the less I know about them, what styles they are. I'll do my best, okay? I generally know who the manufacturers are, and I know what my experience has been with the ones that I have and how they run. What I will tell you is I have very few in my collection of locomotives that don't run, because if I buy something and it doesn't run properly, and it's not something that I'm absolutely crazy about, and you'll see two examples of that in this video, I get rid of them. I mean, if they don't perform to my expectations, I just get rid of them. I don't mess around. There are particular ones that you can't get anywhere else besides whatever the manufacturer is that makes it, and I sometimes will goof with those and mess with those, put new chassis under them, modify them in some way to make them run to my expectation. If they don't, out the window they go. That being said, maybe I'm a little bit too particular. I know I'm going to catch flack for the way Atlas runs against the way Kato runs. There's guys that think Katos are too fast. I think that they're just fine the way they are. You don't have to run them at 90 miles an hour, even though they will go to 90 miles an hour. But I like Kato locomotives. I have a lot of Kato locomotives, and I like my Atlas locomotives for the most part, to be able to run with my Kato locomotives. And they're so far apart in motor styles that in reality it's almost impossible to do with speed matching, and I don't do any speed matching. But you have to take I would have to take all my Kato locomotives and drag them down to what I consider to be poor running ability of Atlas scale speed motors, and I'm not willing to do that. I'm going to take flack for that, and if you don't like it, tough beans. It's my railroad, it's my locomotives, you do what you want with yours. But I'm going to try and give you an honest opinion of what I have, and let's get into it without me going on and on and on about this. I already have. Okay, these two locomotives here are Athearn F45s. I got them because I love the paint scheme, and no one's done an F45. They've done FP45s. And my opinion on these is they ran like crap from the day I bought them, and they still run like crap today. I went through them and checked them all before I got them back out and tried to smooth them up again, only to find out, and you can't see it in this video, I'm sure, but just like all Athearn products, the axle's cracked and the wheels come loose, and then they get all out of gauge. And Athearn, I sent them a note. They said, we don't have parts, and we only make a limited amount of locomotives. And I wrote back and said, well, I guess when they don't work, we just have to throw them in the trash. So that's where I left off with Athearn. These will likely get chassis from Kato or something that I'll try and retrofit these with, because I like the bodies. Let's move on to the next. Okay, and we'll start with these GP30s. These are Atlas models from some time ago. I don't remember exactly how old these are. They're not super old, but they're a little bit old. My remedy for them running slowly after Atlas put the slow speed motors in, or scale speed motors in, I changed them to Kato motors because I want them to run with all my other Kato stuff. They're a good looking locomotive, I think, and they are good running locomotives once you ditch the slow speed motors, in my opinion. This is my other set of GP30s. They've also been Kato motored, and they're Atlas, and I love running them now that I've got them where they'll keep up with the Kato locomotives, or I can slow them down to next to nothing. But there again, I like them. Okay, I believe what we have here is an Atlas GP7 or 9, the black locomotive. It runs very well, but there again, it's kind of a slow speed motor thing. I only run it with other Atlas slow speed motor locomotives, but it does run very well. The blue and yellow one is another one with dynamic brakes on it, obviously, and I can run that with the black one in the foreground, and it's a good running locomotive. Then you see that blue and yellow SD26, I believe it is, or SD24, and it is an Atlas, and it's a very good looking locomotive. And I believe that I have 3 or 4 of these, and I'll of course show you the other ones. They are a good locomotive, however, they are very prone to a coupling between the motor and the truck splitting and causing one truck to drag while the other truck's trying to pull. And Atlas does have those parts available. You have to take the locomotive apart, pull the motor out, the engine out, and then you have to take the little plastic, I don't know what, yoke, not a yoke, it's the opposite part of the yoke, but anyway, you take it off the shaft and you put a new one on. And if you have one of these and it's dragging behind and you can't figure out why, I can bet you it's one of those little plastic parts in there. But they can be fixed, and they're usually good for several years after they're fixed. They run real well, and I try and run them together with other SD24s. Okay, the F units, and you can't see the rest of them, but there's an ABA set there. Those are the new Kato Yellow Bonnet Freight, Santa Fe Freight scheme. If you notice the blue pilot on it as opposed to the silver trucks and silver pilot. I don't know really what to tell you guys about those locomotives, except they're probably one of the best locomotives on the market today. If you're modeling that era and you need an F unit, I would strongly recommend to try and buy a Kato unit. They run forever. They always seem to have parts. Easy to put DCC into. And I'm not going to go into the ease of DCC in all these because, frankly, I don't remember on a lot of them. But some of them are not so easy. Some of them are easy. Anyway, that's it on the F7s, and I'll go over a couple more of my F7s because that's what I'm doing. But anyways, next to them, you'll see 2 GP20s. Those are lifelike. They were lifelike after Walthers bought lifelike, and they are pretty decent locomotives. They run, I think they run very well. I don't know if they would run with my Katos. I'm kind of intending on trying to see if I need to remotor those to Kato motors so that I can get them to run with the GP30s, so I can mix 20s and 30s together, because I like 20s and I like 30s. But anyway, the lifelike, the later lifelike after the purchase by Walthers, are pretty nice locomotives. I I would have to say I like them even a little better than the Atlas locomotives. But that's just my opinion on them. But I do like them because I like 20s. Let's move on. These are two Atlas VO1000s. What I would tell you about these VO1000s is, in my opinion, they are one of the best running Atlas locomotives that Atlas has ever produced. They ran very well right out of the box, and they continue to run well for me. I like them a lot. I don't use them an awful lot, but I do like them an awful lot. I wouldn't have any problem purchasing a set of these. They're not too bad to put decoders in either. So that's my opinion on these guys, and let's move on. Okay, to look at some of these, I have to stand on a stool and get into my cabinet. That is a lifelike, I believe that's a lifelike GP20, and it is gutted because I just use it as a dummy locomotive to run around with some of my Santa Fe stuff, because I saw a picture in a book with a New York Central locomotive attached to some GP30s and 20s in Santa Fe, somewhere probably in New York. Below them you'll see an ABA set of Kato F7s. I've done some detailing on those. I don't need to tell you about how they run again, because they are, in my opinion, an almost perfect N scale locomotive. I also have 2 more A's, 2 more B's, and another A, because I'm fanatical about F7s. Down here I have another couple of Kato F7s that were CB and Q that I changed into my own, or I'm sorry, those are F3s that I've changed into my own road name. They were CB and Q. I hardly ever run these. However, once again, I love them. Another B unit. Then next to that, we have an Intermountain set of FTs. What I will say about the FTs is that they run very well once they get broken in. They're a little bit tough to break in, but once you get them broken in, they seem to run very well. They run as a connected pair, so you have an A-B set all the time. And I have another set of those there, and I can run them ABBA. But they are also very nice locomotives, but do require quite a bit of break-in, as do some of the Atlas locomotives. We'll go down here. I believe, I'm not real sure, I don't run steam locomotives too often, but I want to say that that's a model power. I'm not real sure about that, but I think it's a model power. If it's a model power, they run very well, easy to put DCC into, and usually pretty darn rugged for a steam locomotive. Then we have a set of E8s in Santa Fe, Kato, once again. Another bulletproof locomotive that Kato makes. I use this set here primarily for running my track cleaning cars around. Why, I don't know, it's just the ones I chose. I believe that this locomotive here, 1372, I don't know if that's another model power, or, yeah, I believe that's another model power. I'm not real sure, but I think it's another model power. I kind of like the model powers if I'm going to do steam locomotives. They're not the most accurately detailed, and they're not the high-end locomotives, but they seem to run very consistently. Let's move on. Okay, this is a Kato RS1. Once again, it runs extremely well. I don't even know whether you can still buy any of those. Next to them are 2 Kato NW2s. They run extremely well also. I have no problems with any Kato locomotives except the rail diesel cars. They're a little bit finicky. Another set of yellow bonnet F7s. These are the passenger scheme. Above them you will see the blue bonnets, another Kato set. They were a freight scheme, hence the black trucks. These 2 locomotives are older, What were they? U-33s or U-23s? I'm not really sure. I'm not too up on the U-boats, but they are U-boats. Even being old, they run well. Parts are still available. You can get stuff for them. That little Missouri Pacific locomotive used to go back and forth on the old layout on a little back and forth circuit, and it just ran and ran and ran, and it's a lifelike. And it is strictly DC, and it just chugged back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. I love that little locomotive. Let's move on. Okay, up here we have two more U-33s or 23s, whatever they are. I am not real certain. And obviously the blue and yellow war bonnet. They run really, really, really well. I use those mostly in my modern trains, and I'll show you those locomotives later on. And my arm's getting tired up here, so let me switch arms real fast. Okay, so that is an RS3. That is a Kato. It, like all Katos, runs flawlessly. Another Kato RS3, and obviously the blue and yellow. And this guy, which I believe is another NW2 Kato, and it runs extremely well. I don't run that one very often either, but I do like the locomotive a lot. Now, up above there, those are two more Atlas SD24s or 26s. I have tuned these up, and I have replaced the drive parts that have gone bad in these, and they run extremely well. They've been run sufficiently to get them really broken in well. Up above here, I have a couple of Rock Island locomotives, and those are, I can't remember. I think those are lifelike, early lifelike. They pretty much run like poop. That's why the train is up here in the cabinet, because those two locomotives don't run worth a damn. If I ever got around to replacing the mechanisms in them with some Kato mechanisms, I kind of planned on doing that so that I can pull my Golden State Limited. But my recommendation on those is don't buy them unless you're looking for the paint job. Let's move on. Okay, this locomotive in this box, this is my Swift refrigerator train. This is a Broadway Limited, and it is a 282. This thing, since the day I bought it, has run flawlessly with one exception. They have a traction tire, and the traction tire almost disintegrated upon putting it on the track. Not really. I got some mileage out of it before it came apart. But they do give you another set to put on, but putting them on is not for the faint of heart and those without a sufficient amount of small tools. Unless you want to send it back to BLI, which I didn't want to do. But anyway, it's relatively easy to swap the tire out if you can get the rod off the axle. And I just happen to have the right size little socket wrench for that. And took the rod off, put the traction tires on, and put it back together, and it's run flawlessly ever since. So even though I had the traction tire problem, I'm really happy with that locomotive. Let's move on. Okay, this is an exception to the rule. These are not Kato. These are Broadway Limited. I bought them for my Superliner cars because it just makes a beautiful train, and I wanted to have decent sound. So I got these guys, and these guys in Broadway Limited have also performed absolutely flawlessly. I have no complaints whatsoever on these three Broadway Limited locomotives. I've been extremely happy that I bought them, and I have never looked back. I know there's guys out there that have had problems with Broadway locomotives of different types and so forth, but I am fortunate in that I have not been one of those people. I am totally happy with these guys. So, let's move on. Okay, we're going to start here at the bottom. Those of you who may or may not know, These are Fox Valley Models GP60Ms. That's an A, that's an A, and that's a GP60B. All three of these locomotives ran extremely slow. They ran well, but they ran extremely slow. Once again, the old Pfeiffer thing, I put Kato motors in these, all three of these, and they run like a top now. I don't run them very often, and I'm not real fond of the B units, but the GP60A units, or GP60M units, are one of my favorite locomotive styles. I loved them when they came out, and now I'm as old as they are. But anyways, Fox Valley Models. If they ever start making locomotives again, don't hesitate to buy one. Just don't expect it to be extremely rapid if you need it to be rapid and run with other brands of locomotives. Let's move up here. Here. This is a, I believe this is an SD40. It's a Kato. I know that, I'm pretty sure it is an SD40. And I'm pretty sure it's Kato. Nope, yeah, that's a Kato. That's a Kato. They run extremely well. A little bit hard to find these guys nowadays. They're going to release the SD40-2 mids again in the next couple of weeks, I believe. But anyway, it's a good running locomotive. Don't hesitate to buy one if you have an opportunity. Let's swing over here. This is an Atlas B23, I believe. Let me take a look at this guy. Yeah, that's an Atlas B23. That one there is gutted because they don't run worth a darn, in my opinion. So I gutted it, and that's just a pull along with other locomotives. It's just a dummy. This is an Atlas GP60. It runs very well as long as you're running it with other Atlas locomotives. Once again, like I say, Atlases take a little bit of breaking in. So if you don't have a big track somewhere to run them around, you're going to have to run them around in a circle, circle, circle. This is a Kato. And that's an SD40-2, I believe. I'm not sure. I'm not too up on locomotive. I think it's an SD40 or SD40-2. I'm not positive. But I got it because I like it. You can see that I've spent some time on it, doing a little weathering in the screens and stuff. It runs beautifully, absolutely beautifully. Let's move over. This particular one is a Kato, and it is a C44. Probably, in my opinion, another one of the best locomotives that Kato's ever produced, besides the SD40s. But these C44s just always ran like a top for me. You can see this one has had a bunch of extreme re-lettering and weathering done to it. Also, the trucks on both of these that you'll see here have been replaced because we burnt them on the club layout. But you can see that I did some repatching and weathering. Same thing on this one up here. I always loved these locomotives. That's why I spent a lot of time on these two. And these two are replicas of two locomotives that actually existed and, to my knowledge, still do exist out there. I come over here. This is a Kato SD45. Another extremely good running locomotive based on a SD40, similar SD40 chassis. This is an Atlas GP, oops, this is an Atlas GP, I want to say it's a 60. It is in the BNSF colors, and it runs pretty darn good. I was pretty happy with this one when I got it. But all the Atlas GP60s I've been happy with. That guy runs pretty good. This is another new, relatively new, really new run of Atlas GP30s. It runs well and runs well with that 60 in the BNSF. Here is another SD40, I believe. And once again, it's a Kato, and it runs extremely well. This is another Atlas GP60. This one here is an award winner at one of the N Scale conventions. This locomotive 2229, what I have here is an exact, it's painted exactly like the real locomotive existed at least a few years ago. It was all patched up with primer. The trucks were primered in the red primer. Anyway, I built it as an exact model of that particular locomotive. And if you look that locomotive up on the web, you will see that I did a pretty good representation of it. That's a real good running locomotive, and I would have to say it's one of the prizes in my locomotive collection. I spent a lot of time on that locomotive, and I'm very happy with it. This is a Bachmann. It's another U23, I believe. I'm not really sure what that is. I don't know what it is, actually. I bought it online already broken. There again, this one is gutted, and I merely use it as an additional piece of dummy rolling stock, basically. And last but not least, another C44. This one here, not so much weathered as the old ones. I don't know if that's a C44. I think that's a C44. And I'm not sure if that's a Kato. Let me look at that one. That is a Bachmann Spectrum. Now that I look at it, I think that one is gutted as well. I gutted several locomotives just to run in concert with other locomotives without having them actually be powered. So, that being said, and looking at all of that right now, the only other locomotives we have to look at are inside the house in a case, and that will be the extent of my locomotive roster. Okay, the lighting isn't too good in here in this room, but that one in my own road name right there I did many years ago. That is a Bachmann, and if my memory serves me right, there is something wrong with the decoder install in that, and it runs a little bit and then stops, runs a little bit and stops, and I'm too damn lazy to take it apart. But these 2A2s usually ran pretty good, these Bachmann Spectrums. I would not discount those if you're looking for a steam locomotive. We move up here. That is a Kato U23B, C rather. And as you can see, it's in a 1776, the bicentennial paint scheme for Burlington. I just have it because, I mean, it's a very good locomotive and everything. I just have it because it's a bicentennial locomotive. For no other reason do I have it. I have a Kato ACE here in the George Bush, and I don't run this very often, but it is a spectacular runner. But the more spectacular feature of it is the quality of the paint job on this locomotive. In my opinion, my humble opinion, this is one of the best paint schemes that was ever applied to an N Scale locomotive. The clarity of the lettering, the colors, the separation of paints, it's when you look at this locomotive close up, it's just startling, actually. This little Bachmann 44 tonner. What I would tell you is I like them and I would normally run them, but when I took this one apart to paint it in my own road name, I put it back together and it never has run right since. And there again, I'm too lazy to take it apart and work on it. But they were pretty decent running locomotives. Not great, but decent. Okay, let's move on. Okay, this is an Atlas RS3 and an Atlas RS1 and Long Island Railroad. Why do I have Long Island Railroad, you may ask? Because Robin is from Long Island. And she remembers these trains. These two they're a relatively new run and they seem to run extremely well. I have run them together along with the passenger cars out at the club and no problems whatsoever, other than the fact that they run a little bit slow compared to Kato locomotives if you try and run them together, and we don't need to go over that again. Let me move on down. Here is another Atlas locomotive. This one is an RS-11, I believe. I'm not real sure. I think it's an RS-11. It's another Atlas. It is also in Long Island Railroad. I have that in case I want to pull the passenger train with that. And let's move on to the next cabinet. Okay, the one last one, if you want to consider it a locomotive, is this Doodlebug set. It's a Bachmann. Not real happy with the way it runs. I think if with a little bit of work one could make it run pretty good, but the gearbox mechanism on the one end, the drive end of it, is just really inadequate, in my opinion. It's a very nicely done set, and I've been trying to think about how I can repower it, but I'm impressed with the model, but not impressed with the running capability of it. And it came with DCC installed in it already. I did it in my own road name, obviously, but I just need to work on it a little bit and figure out how to get it out on the layout. I'd love to have it work in the passenger service out on my layout. And pretty much that's it. That's all the locomotives that I can come up with right at the moment. And maybe I missed something, but that's it. Okay, everybody, I hope you got something out of that video. I couldn't spend all day, you know, talking about each locomotive. It's just beyond the capabilities of a single video. And most of you guys can do research on them and hear whatever you want to hear. The good or the bad, or vice versa. Everybody has an opinion on a particular locomotive or type or whatever, and you'll get that out there. But anyway, I appreciate you guys taking a look at this thing. I hope you got something out of it. I hope you enjoyed it. And Brian, I hope you especially got something out of it. And I appreciate you suggesting that video to me, because I don't think anybody's ever really seen my full roster, and it's not that big a deal. I mean, you know, I have what I have, and everybody has what they have. But anyways, I hope you got something out of it. I hope you liked it. And as usual, thanks for watching.